Right. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the first day of open topics discussions at the PTG. Today, we have a very busy day with a packed agenda. We have a lot of topics to cover. The PTG did not start today. This is not the first session we have for the PTG. On Monday, we had a retrospective, which was productive, and we came up with great ideas. It would be nice if we can discuss some of them further in the upstream weekly meetings to come. So yeah, um, excited to be joined by you on this first day of the open topics discussions. As I said, packed agenda. So I've added a couple of breaks throughout the day, and all of the recordings for all of the sessions they are in this OpenStack Manila in the OpenStack Manila channel YouTube playlist. So and it's linked here at the top. If you miss something, please check it out. I'm doing my best to update all of the recordings at the end of the day. Yep, without further ado, let's get started with our agenda for today. First item today is the All Things CephFS Hour, and we are joined here by a couple of our Ceph folks and a lot of interested parties. So Ashley will be leading this topic. So yep, could you,
Sure.
Ashley? Yep.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with some updates, stuff that we've done from Epoxy. Last PTG, we expressed the want to deprecate the standalone NFS Ganesha. But then, based on some community feedback throughout the cycle, we decided to uh, postpone that to the G cycle. Um, we do offer upgrading capabilities from standalone NFS Ganesha to Ceph Orchestrator deployed cluster NFS, but currently it is a bit disruptive. We are in some uh, early design discussions with Frank around that solution. I don't know if Frank is in the call. Maybe he wanted to
Yeah, Frank's here.
comment. Oh, hey, Frank.
Yeah, I can step in here. The slow disruptive process that we've documented, it's something that we've been testing uh, with the Red Hat distribution of OpenStack. Technically, the idea there is that we used to deploy a pacemaker controlled NFS Ganesha active passive HA pair, and this would run on the OpenStack controller nodes on Red Hat OpenStack. The new CephNFS cluster that is natively supported on Ceph clusters, this runs on nodes that you identified could be part of your Ceph cluster itself, um, and this comes with a slightly different architecture, and the way it is configured. But these config changes can be reconciled when you're actually deploying this NFS cluster. You could copy your configuration from your old standalone NFS Ganesha. There are some parts of the configuration that are not going to apply. Like for example, with the active passive NFS Ganesha, we had a recovery backend. It's called Rados KV, and that's not going to be applicable to the NFS cluster that you would create on the with the Ceph orchestrator. And this is part of the problem as to why we can't really have a straightforward migration path. And so the migration path that we've documented and tested is the fact that you should um, tell all of your clients as an OpenStack administrator that they would have to expect a downtime when you're switching over, and that the new NFS exports are going to change. If you had them behind some sort of a DNS or something, that is a change that you can make and control. But if not, the export paths are probably going to be bubbling up in Manila, and they would be seeing them as preferred export paths. and so they would have to make these client side changes themselves. And this can be done over a period of time, although we hope that it's not too long of a migration window, because that we have not actually tested something where we have exported CephFS. It's the same CephFS subvolumes through the two different NFS services, and seen how they behave over a large amount of time. We do hope that it doesn't cause too much of an issue if it is a short amount of time. And I think what we've also called out is that don't have your migration go halfway. That is, if you have clients accessing the same sub volume from two different places, that could lead into all sorts of issues. So as long as your consumption of a single sub volume is coming from a single NFS service, we should be fine. But for all practical purposes, keep that migration windows small enough. Uh, but as you can imagine, this isn't acceptable to folks that are running large clouds. This could be public clouds, service providers, etc. Why is this not acceptable? Because it is hard for them to communicate a switchover window to their end users, and they've kind of asked if there's a better way to do this, or if there's a way to narrow the window. And that's the part I think that we're currently trying to work with the NFS Ganesha community, and ask if if something can be um, done in a better manner around this. And I think my initial discussion with Frank, he suggested we could do an in-place um, migration of sorts from the Rados KV recovery backend to Rados cluster, so that the recovery data looks the same between the active passive NFS Ganesha service and the CephNFS service. And then we should be able to seed the CephNFS service during the creation with the recovery data, and this might actually reduce the disruption window, and hopefully clients don't have to disconnect and reconnect and so on. This is still a theory in progress. We might have to test this out and see how this goes. I see Frank's on the call and Sachin as well. Uh, so if you folks want to add something, correct me, please feel free. But just a clarification here that I think even the upstream docs just talk about this wide migration window and what we can do to reduce the pain, which is advertise both export paths and tag the export paths from the CephNFS service as being preferred. Um, and as you're aware, like Manila is not in the data path, but NFS Ganesha is. And so that's where this becomes problematic to large clouds. And as far as Manila's recovery goes, and you might have heard us speak about this in past PTGs as well. That piece was solid. When you have a NFS cluster going from one NFS cluster to another, or even a standalone NFS service to the NFS cluster, would be a Manila configuration change, and you bounce the Manila Share Manager service, and we reconcile all the exports on the new place. So that part doesn't have to be done on Ceph itself. The only thing we do expect is that there is this NFS cluster before the Ceph manager before the share manager service is instantiated. So that's the thing on the upgrade stuff. If I know there'll be concerns with end users and things, so it's a good opportunity to collect feedback, I suppose, during this cycle, and we might see some improvements based on testing, or we might just harden the migration path that we already have, um, and keep that that form of switchover in the code forever. Um, it's something that we might update you on the during the next PTG or through this cycle. I think I added another item out there, which was around the Rook deployed Ceph clusters. So that's actually a call out that we have never tested Manila's NFS NFS Ganesha with the sorry Manila's Ceph NFS driver with Rook deployed Ceph clusters. And I suppose they wouldn't work partially because the Ceph manager APIs. I'm not sure how they interact um, with a Rook deployed CephNFS service. And it is, if this is something that folks are doing, because we kind of heard some chatter on mailing lists and in terms of installation tools and so on. There is some reason to prefer Rook if you have your OpenStack control plane on Kubernetes, and if you also are deploying Ceph on Kubernetes, or you have an existing Ceph cluster but you would like to manage it with Kubernetes, you'd probably have Rook do some sort of I mean, the interactions there. And the Rook Ceph NFS service is pretty mature in itself. I think it has quite a lot of features, and but that's something that we have not tested at all with Manila. It might be a wish list item, but I'm not even sure if there is a if there is that kind of interest. I'm just picturing it. And we do know that there are differences here. Like for example, the when Rook deploys an NFS cluster, it deploys with uh, a different ingress service. It doesn't use the Ceph ingress service. So for instance, you don't have the HA proxy protocol mode with that, which allows Manila's access restrictions to come to be translated into NFS Ganesha. Back to you, Ashley. I think you can continue with the other items that you had in that upgrade stuff.
Yeah, no, thanks for the updates. I would say regarding the upgrade path and any improvements or hardening we can make, uh, I would prefer to do that before we continue with the deprecation. That being said, we did move deprecation until the G cycle, so the one after Flamingo. CI testing is still in place for this as well, and we'll continue to communicate through the mailing list uh, any changes to the upgrade, and just reminding people that we do have that, or we're aiming at least for the G cycle. I think that covers the deprecation updates. One of the things that we've addressed in epoxy was the allocated capacity issue. This presented itself in the when we use multiple file systems. So that fix was merged a little bit ago. I want to say a couple months now.
Yeah,
Uh,
January.
yeah. So kudos to us, I guess. Carlos, I know you put a lot of work into that as well.
Yeah, thanks. So this was a bug report that we we had some reports from operators, and Chris initially started working on this, and then we tried to suggest some a different approach on how to fix this. But basically, the problem was when we had multiple, like one storage, one Ceph cluster that had multiple file systems, and then we would have each one of those file systems as backends, and then we were not doing like some calculations on the provisioned or allocated capacity gigabytes, and then we would always pick the first backend only to schedule. So we fixed that. We are currently doing something to kind of cache the the amount of the allocation, the allocated capacity, and then after we cache that, I think it's kind of checked every single minute, and then we make the updates, and then whenever we are scheduling shares, we'll check that allocated capacity gigabytes, and then that will be taken into account. Kind of like a nice fix to have, and I've started backporting it. I would like to backport it as far as I can. So I have the backports all the way up to unmaintained 2023.1. Yeah, so that's kind of like the next step for this. It's merged on the 2025.1 or epoxy release. So, and yeah, spending a couple of reviews and the merges for the back parts, but nice to get this done.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
we had I think we had an ask on the Ceph side to be able to provide a sum of all the quotas that we have assigned on sub volumes or something. And we still have that open, right? I mean, I know we got some response saying there is no API right now. It was some sort of a wish list item on their end,
Yeah,
because that kind of simplifies what we're trying to do with this change. This works well for existing code, of course. So thanks for the backports to older releases.
yeah, thank you. Looking at the tracker, we've opened one at least for the size on the volume snapshot, but I think we also had the same thing. Like the same request for this whole file system. So yes, would be nice if we can get that, and it would spare us a lot of effort on accounting all of the subvolumes within the file system. So yeah, hope we can get that.
Yeah, when you have a chance, add that tracker here so we keep track of it.
Yep.
What else have we? So we also supported, or we've added some testing for the NFS v3 driver for, well, specifically for Windows. Anyways, that's kind of the use case we're aiming for. We did. I think it was Laurent that merged the change that adds the capability to choose 3 or 4 NFS version 3 or 4 when it comes to testing, which is very useful. And we're not overriding that protocol in CephFS. So we'll be, where possible, doing version 4.
Yeah. So it's a config list option. It's really nice. Big thank you to everyone involved later on for proposing this. Yeah, that's a lot of. It will help us. What we happen to test is what is happening now is yeah, we'll get just a list of NFS versions and then run the scenario test using it. It was kind of like one easy way for us to ensure that we are testing everything So yeah, that's uh, that's pretty much it, I would say, for this issue. But for as far as testing, right, as you said, in this NFS Ganesha, we kind of like haven't enabled this in our jobs yet. I remember we were talking about it being available or not in the builds, and I think it was one part of the discussion that we had back then. So yeah, we would need to ensure that, and then we, like, would definitely need to go ahead and uh, update the NFS versions for the in the job for the test that we for the job that we want to run the test twice, one for NFS v4 and one for NFS v3.
Yep. Next up, we've got some updates as far as testing and stabilization. So we have a table that will need to be updated, where we identified the Ceph releases that we test in a testing matrix between Manila and DevSec plugin Ceph, and I think it would be best if we also add a Manila Tempest plugin column to that chart. What needs to be updated here is that we've bumped the Ceph version to Reef in Antelope, Bobcat, Caracal, Dalmatian. We have a pending patch for Squid, version Squid for Epoxy, and then that can probably be backported up to a certain point as well. Yeah, that's Francesco's patch. So Epoxy, and I mean, so far so good with the test results in that patch. So things are looking good. The state of RCI. So we do have a number of bugs, Ceph bugs, that are impacting Manila. One of them is related to HA proxy. I know we said in the last one or two cycles that we were trying to test with the Ingress daemon, and we were investigating and investigating and investigating, and then we finally found out that there's an issue with the HA proxy protocol. There's a segmentation fault there, and that's why things just weren't running as expected. We've disabled Ingress testing in Manila Tempest plugin and in DevStack plugin Ceph for now, pending when that bug fix becomes available upstream. Another thing that kind of came up when we were doing this investigating is the lack of persistent logging. So specifically when we were investigating the Ingress stuff, we were trying to get NFS logs, but they were not, I mean, they were probably there when the test was running, being written, but then when you go back on Zool, when after the test fails, it's just not there, which is a pain point when it comes to trying to investigate these bug failures or test failures and trying to, have information, good information when you report a bug and things like that. So we did open up a tracker to hopefully address that. I don't know if there's a target for that. Probably not anytime soon. We are close to what's the one after Squid? Can't remember the name right now. But yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that and hope for the best that we get that soon. The last bug that we found, or that we have a tracker for it here, is the quotas mismatch, specifically in the native test suite. The test share extend tests fail because we're writing well over the quota limit. So there's a big mismatch there. We did provide some logs. I might have to refresh that log because that was over a month ago. And as we all know, Zool only sticks around for 30 days. Yeah, I might update that, have it available for Ceph engineers to browse. Yeah, I think that's it for the open bugs for now. I might be missing some. I've got a number of bookmarks around, but these are the ones that wanted to call out today.
Yeah, we were. I think the Ingress service testing is still useful, although we are testing with a single node NFS Ganesha in these jobs, right? So it's not really a clustered NFS service, but the semantics are still the same. Is the idea?
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if when and how this bug will get fixed. Um, I mean, at least on an internal tracker, I noticed that the fix may not be that hard, and it seems to be on the CephAdam side. So I'm hoping that is the case. We'll do some more testing on that. The persistence logging thing has been a pain, and is not a priority as such. It's just makes postmortems really hard. So the NFS service fails. You don't really have logs because the container went down. Um, so there are ways to work around this. I'd suppose, but yeah, if there was a standard canned way from Ceph when it sets up the cluster, it'll be great. Yeah, Francisco, go for it.
Hey, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. So I agree with the point tests. Even if it's a standalone cluster, we can check the logical flow of data. So it would be great to have this in CI. Um, Regarding persistent logging instead, I'm a bit concerned because probably it requires something more on the CFADM side to have like an RCS log set up for HA proxy because that would be the basically how HA proxy worked in the past, unless there is something new there. So we may need to wait more. Maybe we can have some input from the Ceph team around that. Um, but basically, yeah, the lack of logging from the Ingress team that is contributes basically to make hard troubleshooting and finding issues with Ceph.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I kept thinking about the NFS bits, but not the HA proxy bits. You're right. So the NFS service really is both the ingress and NFS. So we need both logs to persist. Um,
Yeah, mostly because HA the proxy protocol is something that you need to track at the HA proxy sides. And I was just worried about having an additional basically piece of software configured by CephADM. In that case, that would be the RCS log to make sure that we can actually track what's the traffic basically that
yeah.
happens in HA proxy. And that would complicate things a bit.
Mm. Is there a need like this for anything else? Any other stuff, Damon, that you know of? Like, I don't know if RGW has similar
No,
issues.
I don't think so. For RGW is easier because if when you configure Ceph to basically log to file, RGW follow that approach. The
Right.
process is able to redirect its logs in the file. But HA proxy is basically an external entity that is packaged by Ceph as a container, but it's still the HA proxy software consumed by Ceph. So
Got it.
you need to follow the HA proxy rules when it comes to log.
You're right. But with NFS Ganesha, it should be easy because it also has a log to file kind of a capability. Like you can specify the NFS Ganesha log file.
Yeah, for Ganesha, it would be easier in that case. I didn't try it. I'm also I'm wondering if we are able to inject more verbosity and how to do that with CephADM, but that won't be so complicated
Right.
for Ganesha. Anyway, I think the most complicated issue at the moment is the Ganesha or the CephADM bug in the HA proxy config to make sure that we can still basically test the entire logical flow of data.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So we will keep an eye on these Ceph trackers, and yeah, keep an eye on that. Next, we have the manage and manage implementation in the CephFS driver. We do have two open changes. One is the Manila Tempest plugin change, and the manage and manage using instance IDs. Carlos, do you want to speak a little more about these patches?
Yes. So manage and manage with the CephFS driver, it works a bit differently from what it does with other backends, especially because of one of the differences, one of the main differences when we are checking the shares in the backend. In this case, a couple of the backends, they pretty much, when we are managing, we just specify the export path or the export location of the share as it used to be before. And then as soon as we did that, the share backend would be able to go ahead and look for the share using that export location, and then we would bring that under Manila management. Um, so that's one of the that's kind of like one of the main reasons about, for the manage through instance ID. In CephFS or using the CephFS driver, we were not able to query share using its export path. The CephNFS subvolume info or API, it doesn't allow you to specify something other than the subvolume name. So, and then in this case, the subvolume name in Manila we would know, and that's the only identifier that you could look for it. So, in our implementation, what we did is we are advising when managing, we are advising people to use the the share ID in the backend, and then the driver will be able to work around and manage the share. But that also has implications to the tempest testing, and that's what this change is fixing. We are, instead of only allowing to test with share export location when we are managing the share, we are also allowing people to use the share instance ID by adding a new configuration option saying if we should manage it with the share snapshot or ID. It defaults to false so that we don't break any sort of behavior right now. But when you set it to true, then Manila will detect they are smart enough. And when we do manage and manage, there is no way for us to know if there's something in the backend that we just created. So we create a share and then we unmanage it. But we kind of like keep track of the share instance ID because that's what ends up in the backend, and then we'll send the share instance ID instead of the export location to manage the share. And that's pretty much what this how this change is addressing it and adapting this to the scenario. And then we can also test stuff with the CephFS driver, considering the CephFS driver implementation. And it's working just fine. This change has a depends on that other change. All of the jobs passed. This change didn't have a +2 yet because we were waiting on on the other change to take effect on this one. And this change is pretty much enabling the tests on the CephFS drivers and the jobs. We are adding a new class and doing the testing. All of the manage and manage testing are just like inheriting from the base NFS test, both for shares and snapshots, and just running the test when the protocol is there. And we are also setting the manage with share or snapshot ID flag to true, just because we need to make that in order to just so that we can run the tests in a way that the CephFS driver will be able to manage the shares and snapshots. And what's this change waiting? Well, we've had a couple of discussions around this, and we have too many jobs on the CI right now. Um, no surprise to anyone, but the amount of jobs it kept growing, and we need to do some sort of a cleanup in the jobs on the CI. And the idea that we have now is to have this as a job variant. And the tricky part about testing this is we do not have this feature tied to an API microversion, considering that manage and manage is kind of like a node feature in Manila, and there's a lot of things, but we only added the support. We keep adding the support to other drivers now, and that's where we were. So we cannot tie this to a specific API microversion. And that's what we were trying to do, like create a job variant that would run specifically on the branches that where this feature is available. And that's the approach that we'll need for testing. We came to this conclusion, and then I'll need to work on the job variant and have the testing in place. So that's one of the things that I would like to work on, the test variant. Do some sort of a cleanup as well in the jobs, because a couple of branches got dropped, and I think we were doing a lot of workarounds also related to the version of the tests, the Ubuntu test image. So I think we are in a good shape now to go ahead and do some cleanup, get rid of some old jobs that were targeting some older branches, and introduce this job variant. So that's one of the plans that I would like to get done during this release. But the feature is there, and we know it's tested because we ran the tests on the CI. We just need to merge them. So that's all I had on updates for this feature.
Awesome. Thanks, Carlos, for all your hard work in getting that implemented and tested. We also have the ensure shares changes. The API change did make it in. I think the CLI change also made it in Epoxy, actually. So it's no longer pending.
Yeah, we don't have only like the Tempest testing for that because it's like a tricky feature to test. It would require restarting stuff or running ensure shares in a service. That's and we have concurrency environments, right? So that's the tricky part of this. But there's also like a follow up. I think when I first updated this feature, we didn't have the filtering of shares by of the services by the ensuring status. So I'm working on a change for that right now. I can link that here, but it's pretty much like a. I'm also doing some other thing. We used in the past we used to do a lot of the filtering in the API layer, and we started moving a lot of that to the database, and that is kind of something that we are trying to not do. Like filtering stuff first, the filtering stuff on the API layer, but also the part where we like can apply filters to everything. We don't want to only have a couple of filters where you can filter the resource based on. So I've added that piece, and it's this one. So this is the API part. At the end of the last cycle, I was pushing this some patches to this change, but this introduces a new API version request, and it was too late in the cycle for a new API version. and like it's feature free, so we need to kind of have best feature freeze is tough to just add a new API version and API changes. We need to have proper testing. So yeah, I kind of have been working on this. There is also a client change related to this, but this change is pretty much moving the testing to the database, or the filtering to the database, and allowing people to filter uh, by the status services, by the ensuring status. So yeah, pretty much it on the updates for this change.
Great. Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, I'll take a look at this uh, filter patch as well and give you some reviews. This is a good one to have. Um, next, yes, export location. So, as part of the move with from standalone to clustered and the migration and upgrading, we use the preferred key uh, on export location metadata. The API changes for that are in, and so are the CLI changes. The Tempest tests are still pending. I'm working on that. I'm running into some issues, especially with other tenants' export locations metadata. There's also a related change about the CephFS file system metadata verifications, which is also on my to-do list for review. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, so I added that later, but yeah, that's one thing that is nice to talk about too. We've introduced it. We introduced the file system name as part of the metadata of the shares a couple of cycles ago, especially because we wanted to show this information as it is important for mounting the shares. You like to have the file system name when you're mounting. So we've added that. And yeah, the only part is it needs some testing, right? So if we can just test this and ensure that this is working, and whenever we need the or that the metadata will be there, and also that we are not breaking anything when we are making changes, and that this test can tell us. So that's pretty much the purpose of this change, is modifying the tests and uh, ensuring that we have the mount options, which is where we've declared the file system metadata verifications. So yeah, that's the only uh, change left for that.
All right. Thanks, Carlos. And the last topic for this talk is the work that we want to do or look into in the Flamingo cycle. So we want to investigate support for Samba or CIFS within the CephFS drivers for Manila. I thought I added some links. I'll have to go into my bookmarks and find them, but I did have. Dang, I thought I added that. Mm. All right, I'll have to find that and put it in there. I don't have too much updates or background information on this, just that we did have customers possibly looking into Ceph that may have wanted CIPS support. Fortunately, we don't currently have that, but since someone asked, we will be looking into that. We also have a quality of service is available with NFS Ganesha. It is merged, I believe. The implementation.
Oh,
Oh no, it's
it's
still
the
open.
request is open. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's still open. Mm, but QoS is definitely a useful thing to have, and as soon as we can, we will be supporting this in Manila as well. Yeah, so I've added there the PRs for implementation and documentation.
All right, that's a good roundup. Thank you, Ashley. I think the QoS stuff is nice to look forward to, especially if this stuff merges in Ceph. The challenges are going to be around testing with the master, which we I mean we can tweak DevStack plugins if we've done that in the past and develop things concurrently. But depending on when this lands and how we're planning to target it, whether this is going to be in Flamingo for the CephFS drivers in Manila or in the G release, we might actually have a Ceph release in the meantime.
Yeah.
Is there any feedback here for the SMB CIFS support? I know we heard that in a couple of uh, you know face-to-face meetings, sort of a thing, and clouds right now trying to migrate and find the same experience with OpenStack and Ceph. Um, and the lack of NFS v4 clients on Windows. That's what exasperates this need. Um, and I think this is quite nascent in Ceph itself, the SMB gateway. Um, so we can try prototyping something like this, but I'm not sure there'll be a whole lot of uptake for it. All right. Are we waiting for questions, concerns?
Yeah, I was going to open up the floor. I mean, that covered all the topics. If there's anything else you guys wanted to ask about or bring up in today's talks, feel free to put it in chat or add it in the Etherpad or unmute even.
All right. I think silent at the moment. So yeah, thanks Ashley. If someone in the audience has any questions or something they'd like to bring up, please let us know. And yeah, thank you very much for uh, putting all of these together and for taking us through all of these updates. It's really nice. Yep. And thanks for all of the great work during the cycle as well.
Yeah, thanks for the input throughout the talks. And yeah, I'm excited for what else we're bringing up in the PTG.
Awesome. All right. So we are 10 minutes ahead in the schedule, which is good. I think we can take the 10 minutes and then get back at 8 minutes at this point, right? And get back at 15 UTC for out of place backup restarts and the share backup enhancements. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Carlos.